Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Stephen Brown, and in today's video, guys, I want to take a little bit more of an in-depth look than we already have here on the channel on the Rasmus Sandin contract situation. The latest on the negotiations come from this Luke Fox article from about the middle of August or so, where it's basically Louis Gross, Rasmus Sandin's agent, and Kyle Dubas talking through the media almost, and the quote that stands out above all is that this isn't going anywhere as of now. And that's frustrating for fans in Toronto because we've sort of been there and done that with agents negotiating through the media. But it's also frustrating because the Maple Leafs signed a very similar player to Rasmus Sandin earlier this summer. Timothy Liljegren, a 23-year-old former first-round pick, young RFA defenseman, only a year older than Rasmus Sandin, to a 2-year, $1.4 million per season contract. And even Kyle Dubas himself has come out and said that he thinks the two players are valued pretty similarly. Maybe you think Rasmus Sandin is a little bit better than Timothy Liljegren. Maybe you think his ceiling is a little bit higher, but still, they're probably in that same range. But from the 32 Thoughts podcast in about the middle of July or so, Elliot Friedman said that he thinks that Sandin's camp sees their value at being closer to what Adam Boqvist signed for in Columbus, which was $2.6 million a season and 3 years. Without even comparing the two players, let's just look at a couple of hypotheticals. If the Toronto Maple Leafs were to move out a guy like Justin Holl making $2 million, it would leave them with about $2.7 million in cap space to re-sign Rasmus Sandin and fill out one more spot on their fourth line. But that would also mean that it would be a 20-man roster and no extra bench players in case anyone got injured. You can maybe navigate that situation by messing around with long-term injury reserve or even some emergency call-ups, but it's definitely not ideal. So you can see how it would be difficult for the Maple Leafs to give Rasmus Sandin a contract similar to what Adam Boqvist got, $2.65 million and 3 seasons. Even if he were to sign for $2.25 million, which is less money, it still doesn't leave them enough money to fill out that fourth line or carry any extra skaters. All right, so then maybe a 3-year deal just doesn't work. Maybe the two parties would be better going off with a cheaper, shorter term deal that, might cost the Leafs more in the long run, but allows them to fit Sandin under the salary cap this season. If we're looking at something shorter than 3 years, let's first take a look at what a 1-year deal could look like and what the pros and cons would be for both sides. Typically, a 1-year deal for a young player is a prove-me type deal where he's going to get an opportunity to play and possibly take his team to the cleaners the very next offseason. But if you're Sandin and you're looking at the left side of the Toronto blue line where there's already Morgan Rielly, Jake Muzzin, and Mark Giordano, it could be difficult for him to find playing time there. And if you're not playing as much as you possibly can, how is he supposed to prove that he's worth more money than what he is right now? So it could be a situation where if he signs a 1-year deal, he could be in the exact same position next offseason that he is in right now. Now, Sandin did play some games on the right side for the Maple Leafs last year, but overall, they didn't really go the greatest. And if I'm Rasmus, again, if I'm signing a 1-year deal playing on my offside, I may not be able to be as effective as I know I can be, possibly playing on the left side. How am I supposed to show that I'm as valuable as I think I am, not really playing to my strong suits? And if you're the Maple Leafs, if you do trade away a guy like a Justin Holl, sign Sandin to a 1-year deal and play him on the right side, well, Justin Holl's been the team's #1 penalty killer over the last 2 seasons, and Rasmus Sandin's played all of 3 minutes on it over the last 2 years. That's just not a direct replacement. You can't trade away a guy who's killing off as many minutes as what Justin Holl has and replace him with somebody who's never really done it. That's not to say that he can't learn, it's just not the most ideal. So if the Maple Leafs can't afford to pay what it would cost to sign Sandin to a 3-year deal, and a 1-year deal doesn't really work out, well then maybe a 2-year deal is the best compromise here. Because the truth of the matter when it comes to the Maple Leafs blue line is that Jake Muzzin is 33 years old and had a lot of injuries last year. He could spend time on the IR this year, and that could lead to Sandin playing more games. Who knows what happens to Muzzin beyond this season? We just don't know. Mark Giordano is 38 years old. He's probably not going to play every single game this season, but beyond this year, I don't know. Maybe he's not a full-time guy anymore. He was a very effective guy last season, but at 38, if you're adding an extra year onto that body, I don't know what it looks like. But again, on a 2-year deal, if you're looking at what the salary should be, Well, Liljegren signed a 2-year, $1.4 million deal. Exactly what Kyle Dubas said should be the comparable for Rasmus Sandin. But obviously that hasn't worked so far, otherwise we would have a deal. And after all of that, I kind of understand why we're at a standstill right now. The Leafs can't afford to pay him what he's worth on a 3-year deal. A 1-year deal doesn't work for him because of the available ice time. And on a 2-year deal, he clearly thinks that he's worth more than Timothy Liljegren, and the Leafs just don't. Well, I'm glad you asked, because here are a bunch of defensemen under the age of 23 who have signed contracts over the last couple of years, and it's sorted by average time on ice from the last season that player played before they signed the deal, just to show the type of role that they were playing on their team before they signed a contract, because obviously, if you're playing a bigger role at a young age, you're probably going to sign for more money. But if you're looking at some guys, Mikey Anderson signed just the other day, and he was playing up over 20 minutes a night this year for the LA Kings. That was a 1-year, $1 million deal. But again, that could be a scenario where, hey, there's going to be playing time there for him this season, and he's going to be able to prove that he's going to be worth more money next season. So that makes sense why he would maybe sign a 1-year, $1 million deal. Even for Eric Brandstrom, who played up over 19 minutes a night, it's a 1-year deal at $900,000. But if you look at Ottawa's blue line, there's a path for him to play just as much, if not more ice there, that he's going to get an opportunity to prove that he's worth even more money. A guy like Rasmus Sandin, playing 16.58 a night, playing on the power play, again, doesn't play the penalty kill. The Maple Leafs already have Morgan Riley, they have Jake Muzzin, they have Mark Giordano who could play on the power play. They don't necessarily need another guy to do that. So that affects the type of contract that Sandin would sign. And if you look at guys who signed for 2 years here, Dante Fabro, yes, $2.4 million in 2 years, but he played on the penalty kill, up over 19 minutes a night, and this past season was playing with Roman Josi on the top pair for the Nashville Predators. It's not a comparison. Even if you are using Adam Boqvist, who played less minutes a night last year for the Blue Jackets, before he signed the $2.6 million 3-year deal, but if you're looking at the right side for Columbus, there's more of an opportunity for him to play and prove himself. Maybe that's why he's comfortable with signing that type of contract. In Toronto, there just isn't the space to sign him to a multi-year deal, a longer-term deal. And if you're looking at his career totals to this point, they don't really line up with much more money than what Timothy Liljegren or Juuso Välimäki got on 2-year deals. I don't see the Boqvist comparable working out, especially when he's played so many more games, has almost twice as many points as what Sandin does. To me, I think Kyle Dubas is spot on saying that Timothy Liljegren and Rasmus Sandin are very good comparables for each other. And just so we're clear on the matter, according to Elliot Friedman, the plan is still to sign Rasmus Sandin. They don't want to trade him. Hypothetically, if the Maple Leafs were to sign Sandin to, let's say, a 2-year, $1.75 million a year deal, and then traded away a guy like a Justin Hall, they'd have about $950,000 to work with to round out this fourth line, after factoring in the overage charge that they were hit for going over the salary cap at the end of last year. But again, this is still just a 20-man roster. This leaves you no room for any injuries or bench players, and there's going to be injuries and situations that just happen. It's going to leave them relying upon an LTIR situation or emergency recalls, or possibly even having to play short some games, which is just not ideal. This can't be the plan. Now I'm just annoyed about the Matt Murray trade all over again, because it made no sense why they didn't get another 50% salary retained. You know, another $2.3 million in salary cap space here. It really fixes everything. You know, you could fill out that fourth line spot, you can have a bench player, and then you could even bank some cap space to make a bigger trade closer towards the trade deadline. But Kyle Dubas said that, hey, it was going to be really expensive to get another team to retain 50%. And that's the reason, Kyle, you should have gotten more than a third and a 7th round pick to take on Matt Murray in the first place. If a third and a 7th wasn't enough to then flip to another team to get another 50% retained, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to take him on in the first place. And the annoying part is that even if he's good this year, that'll still be true. And I want to like this guy so much. I want to root for him. If he's able to come to Toronto and turn his career around with what he's been through, it's going to be an amazing story. A story that the city, the fans, and the team can really rally behind. And I had him on my list of goalies who I was interested in at the start of this offseason. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, he wasn't first, second, third, or fourth, but he was on my list. but it was based on the Senators either buying him out first or the Maple Leafs getting double salary retained. Because at $2.3 million, that's an intriguing option. You know, Kyle Dubas said we like him at 4.6. Well, we really would have loved him at 2.3 then. It doesn't make any sense to me. And it's frustrating, and it's going to be frustrating for another 2 years there. Clearly, there's another move that needs to be made here, and I've been saying that for months now, which is adding to the frustration because there hasn't really been anything that's happened. But hey, there's still time, and maybe I'm just feeling anxious. You know, things are getting closer. The start of the season is around the corner. It's September the 12th. Clearly, there's still a lot of questions that need answers, and all that means is that we're going to need to make more videos in the coming weeks before training camp and the start of the regular season. So make sure you're getting subscribed so you're not missing any of those. And hopefully, the situation with Rasmus Sandin and his contract is a little bit clearer after today in why the team has been at this standstill with him. You know, on a 3-year deal, they can't really afford to pay him what he's worth because of the salary cap situation. On a 1-year deal, those are typically reserved for players that are going to prove themselves, but how can you prove yourself if the ice time is not necessarily there with the players playing in front of him? And on a 2-year deal, I think Kyle Dubas is entirely right. I don't see why he should be making more or much more than what Liljegren is because they're just two very similar players. If you missed my video from the other day looking at the Maple Leafs signing Zach Aston Reese to a professional tryout contract, I'll leave it linked above the screen and at the end of this one if you want to check that out. I think he's too good and too useful of a player to not eventually sign. And according to Elliot Friedman, the plan is still to sign Rasmus Sandin. So if you're going to sign Sandin and Zach Aston Reese, well, you know, with what money? And that's why I've been saying that a trade needs to happen over the last month and a half or two, and there's just been no trade. So that's kind of made me look stupid, and Kyle, I don't appreciate that. So hopefully we get some clarity on that in the coming weeks so that I don't look stupid anymore. I don't know, maybe I'll still look stupid. It's the nature of things sometimes, but make sure to like the video if you did like it and subscribe for more because more is always on the way, guys. That's going to be it for the video today, and I'll see you in the next one.